Good evening, everybody. Um, Tonight's going to be a little different. John and I are going to do a rap battle up here, actually. No, that would be awesome, but not tonight. Uh, John and I are going to give you sort of an update on Israel, and I know a few of you at least have probably been through one or two of these, so it's going to be a little different than just your typical, we went to Israel, here's what it looked like. We're going to give you some more details and some encouragements, and then John will fill in some stories and all that kind of thing. So if we could just commit this time to the Lord one more time, kind of settle our hearts here. And so, Lord, we do that now. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for a chance to gather together, and we think about how your word encourages us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem, the city of peace that's never known peace. It's always been at war with tension. And so we thank you so much for this church's history with Israel in the last 10 years, and just thank you for the opportunity to go there, and that many of us have gone there, many of us will go there. I pray this night would be a blessing to us, but also to you. So we commit this to you as always in Jesus' name. Amen. So much to start with here. So just a little, going to act like most of you don't know much of anything, and we'll just kind of take it from there. We'll start with the fact that John and I just went on a trip with pastors to Israel. And then there was an extension for 4 days, and we went to Jordan as well. So we crossed over the border into Jordan, and we were there for several days. We left a day early to beat the storm, and we got home a little bit earlier than we intended. So that's what we were up to. And John, actually, you can tell them about your job opportunity. I guess we'll just start with that right now. That'd be kind of fun. Which I should say, John has been working in Bangor, living in the area, wanting to work closer to the area, be more involved around here. So looking for a job has been a real thing on his heart and mind. So I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so this is a pastor's familiarization tour that we just did. And so the idea behind it is that pastors are encouraged to go, and it's easier for them to go for a number of reasons, but the idea is that they're equipped with the knowledge they need to lead tours in the future, right? So that's why they do this every year. And so the agents at the travel agency, they go so that the pastors get connected with them. They know who they're dealing with when they're, orchestrating their trips and solving various problems associated with that. So we were connected with the travel agents that Pastor Greg had been working with for years. And this isn't normal for me, but it's something that I've been working on, sort of the spontaneous action and leap of faith and all. And I was talking to one of the agents, and she said, "John, do you have any other questions for me?" And I said, "Yes, actually. I'm wondering if you happen to have a position at the office that I could fill." I don't know where that came from. I think it was, frankly, Pastor Greg's influence, really, more than anything.
He passed out on the spot. That's what.
She said yes, and then I don't know, I blacked out after that.
So the cool thing is they just negotiated as of yesterday, I believe, and John's going to be working not quite full-time, but he's going to move into that, but working remotely with the agency that we've worked with for years. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So then I applied for a job as well. So anyway, it's just kind of a cool thing. We don't really have any script here tonight, but I will say a couple things. That first of all, I personally believe it. This church has kind of gotten behind it and been a part of it, and we call it the Abrahamic covenant, or the blessing that God promised to those that would bless Abraham and his descendants. And I personally know what it's like to make a tremendous amount of sacrifice with my family, with so many things, to go on a trip to Israel, multiple trips to Israel, and to see God bless that in so many ways, and my personal life enriched so much that I really believe in it. I just want to thank all of you that have been already. I'm excited about the trip coming up in October, so we're going to talk about that in a minute. But believe me, tonight is by no means a sales pitch to get you to go in October. Well, the trip, someone say, oh, actually, yes, it is. No, but the trip is filling up, and I will talk about those details in a moment. But yeah, I just personally believe in that, going there and being there. So the first thing I want to say is this. It's almost the number one question I get coming back is, was it safe? Is it safe? And I could never guarantee anyone's safety in those trips, but I can tell you this. Almost every single time that I have gone, people will express their concern, or there'll be something that comes up last minute to discourage you from going. And I have seen many people drop off the trip leading up to a month, a week, a day before because of the fear of what's going on over there. When John and I drove to Boston, we parked the vehicle. While we were working on where to park the vehicle for the best price, I was notified that the people in Israel, but with the Bible in me, they were informed to stay at home. They had stay-at-home orders and prepare for war, and that flights to Europe were being canceled. And so the question we had to ask ourselves on the fly was, do we fly to Europe and get landlocked? We don't even know what that's going to look like. Well, the coolest part was Pastor Ken Graves was in Israel at the time, so I texted him, and I said, how's it over there? And he said, it's great. I was like, any more details? Like, how's the war going? And he's like, everything's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. And I just say that to say this. In general, but it's certainly true of Israel, you cannot believe anyone's caricature of something, right? And it is one thing to sit back and say, it's so dangerous. And this is the problem with the YouTube generation and people making a fancy video with flashing lights, and people say, it's so this, it's so that, it's the other thing. The fact is sometimes it's not true at all. It's totally fabricated stuff. And every bit of that information that I heard was completely a lie from YouTubers. So that's all I wanted to say on the safety piece. It was completely safe the whole time. We operated before and after the group on our own, John and I, in the Middle East. We speak only English. So we were able to get random people to bring us to the airport and all sorts of things. So it can be done, right? Yeah, that's all I want to say about the safety piece anyway. So the trip itself is, the familiarization tour is very similar to the one that we do. So if you've gone with us, you know what that's like a little bit. We land in Tel Aviv, or sort of central Israel, and on the coast, and then we go from there up north to the Galilee for several days, south to the desert area, and then we land in Jerusalem ultimately. So it's very similar in that. So is there anything you want to share at this point, John? Not at all. You blacked out again. This happens to him when he gets excited. Anything you want. It's a rap battle, man. You get to do whatever you want.
Yeah, there are a few reasons why I think, we love talking about Israel. We like being there. We like talking about it. We like encouraging people to at least consider going. And so, I don't know, if I had to provide a list of reasons why you should consider it, I suppose I'd put this one out there. A lot of people say that it helps strengthen their faith. And if there's a list of reasons why they wouldn't go, I think fear is on the list, and I think the financial component is also on the list. But I guess my encouragement is, without making light of the financial piece, because that is very real. It's a sacrifice. It's no small thing. At the very same time, if you're convinced that a trip to Israel is going to strengthen your faith, then I think you can consider that a worthy sacrifice and sort of a worship decision, really, more than anything. So a worthy investment, I think, for sure. So I guess that's something to think about. But the other component, again, there's the covenant that we honor, and we honor the people of Israel that God has blessed, truly blessed. And, we understand that there's a sort of an expectation that we should have a love for God's people, for the land and for the people that live there. And it's one thing to know that on principle, and it's another thing to have a love for the people based on your own experience, having been there, having seen the people, having interacted with them, having experienced their culture with them. And the cultural component is very interesting, because we understand that the Lord Jesus descended into all of creation and became a man, and that's mind-blowing in and of itself. But one thing that has really stood out to me and come into focus, come into color, being there, is that he became a Jewish man. And that is the culture to which he, into which he entered, and there's I think, a sense in which he was a product of his culture, having been raised in it, having lowered himself to the position of a baby, right, and being dependent on the people of the community to raise him up, and that's incredibly fascinating. But that's the kind of stuff you think about when you're there, walking amongst the people. So.
Yeah, that's really good. So in a few minutes, we're going to turn it over to you guys for a Q&A, any questions you guys have. So if you have some even now, just file them away. We'll answer anything we can help you with or anything about Israel. But so what Jon is talking about is something interesting too, and anyone that's been can attest to it. You never read the Bible the same, right? And I also say when you know someone that's been to Israel, when you meet them, they look crazy when you talk about it. And you say, "Oh, you've been to Israel before." They get like a psycho look on their face. They've been there, they've experienced it, and you look at them like, "You've seen some things, haven't you?" I have, And it's because you never read the Bible the same. It's like, for us, we talk about Lincolnville, Montville, Belmont. That's what it's like when you go there and you see Capernaum and Nazareth and Magdala. You're like, whoa, it's all right there. It makes so much more sense. So that being said, just before we left, days before we left, the Sunday night before we left, we were invited, Jon and I and Pete Quimby, who couldn't be with us tonight, to go to Knox Ridge Baptist Church, as some of you know, and they wanted us to share sort of about Israel. So we had no script or plan, other than there were two people from that church that heard about our trip. When it was open to the public, they signed up, and they basically wanted us to come and talk about it. So we did, okay? And you got to keep in mind, at least at this church, there are people that have been Christians for 50 years, 40 years. And one of the questions that an older gentleman asked me, he said, "So is it true that when you go there, it really changes the way you read and see the Bible?" I was like, "Oh, of course." It was like a nonchalant thing for me. Whatever happened that night, okay, as of this afternoon, so however a couple weeks have gone by, 13 people have signed up from that church to go to Israel. And more, the reason they called me today is they're like, "We just don't want to push the line and have too many people sign up." We didn't expect that maybe 2 people to sign up. We weren't even pitching it to anybody. We just told them, like, here's the way it goes. Here's what we do. Showed them a few pictures. It was probably the worst presentation we've ever done in our lives, quite frankly. But it was the idea that people that have been reading about these Bible stories for 50 years can go and stand in those places and verify your faith. So the way we started that, I guess I'll kind of take you back there, was I said, "Look, Jon, Pete, I don't know what we're supposed to do here, but let's do this. Let's talk about our first experience to get to Israel, how that worked for us." So Jon and I will do that for you now, but it was exactly almost like 11 years ago now, right? Is that? I don't know. Maybe there's more than that. But my pastor, Aaron Dudley, did he do a good job while I was gone? Okay. All right. Yeah. I did not leave you. What's that? Yeah, that's good. I didn't leave you with any schlubs while I was gone, right? They were good. They were awesome. So, well, Matt maybe, but no, he's in the back. No, Matt, that was awesome. So no, I was so excited about the lineup. Did you hear Matt's joke about, "Oh, I don't fit in this whole list"? And I was like, "Oh no, you're the one kicking the ball. This is going to be awesome." So, I lost my pastor. He came back from Israel in like 2014 or 2015, maybe it was. I can't remember exactly. And he was like, it was so amazing. And he just the way he looked and the way he was talking about it. And he's like, "Greg, you have to go when you get an opportunity." And so the next year I got an opportunity and I went. 2016 was my first trip. And it was just a wild thing. In fact, what's wild about it is I went, our church at the time teamed up with this church, Belfast, and Machias. So those 3 churches went together. And being a couple of boneheads that they were, Pastor Storm, my friend, and Aaron, my pastor, made me do most of the teaching. I was like, "I've never even been here before. What are you guys doing to me, So the whole time I'm trying to come up with teachings while I'm running through with my mind blown in Israel. So that was an incredible journey. But I went there, and it just, so many things happened for me. And I just had this sense in my heart, like, I need to get people here. I don't even know what that looks like or how to do it, but I got to get people here. And now, fast forward 10 years, and I've gone almost every year except for the 2 COVID years, but I made up the difference, and I went twice the last couple of years. But man, I have brought hundreds of people to Israel. It never gets old. It never gets boring. I mean, I was like 3rd or 4th trip in, and someone was like, "Does it get boring, after so many trips?" I'm like, no way, man. Our tour guide does it every week. He goes to these sites every week, and you think it was his first time out of the gate. He loves it. So That was my experience. That's how I first got hooked into Israel trips. How did you get hooked into Israel trips, Jon?
It started just over a year ago. Actually, I've only been attending here, as you know, for about a year. And it's incredible, by the way. You're my church family, and I love being here with all of you. And so anyway, over a year ago, whatever, just over, graduated the School of Ministry at Calvary Chapel, Bangor, in Orrington, Pastor Ken. Anyway, I was talking to him just prior to graduating. I said, Pastor Ken, you got to help me out. I'd like to continue my ministry training. And so first of all, he said, don't make this your church home. And I didn't ask any questions, but I'm still wondering what that meant.
He said it in that little girly voice of his, too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Don't make this your church home. Anyway.
Yes. And so anyway, long story short, he put me in touch with Pastor Greg. And so I met with him and Pete and Matt January 12th. Last one. 2025, yeah, thank you. And anyway, so I had only known Pastor Greg for about 2 hours when he told me he was going to Israel. And I asked, Can I go to that? Is that still open? No, I think what he said was, I'd love to have you in Israel someday.
Someday.
Some other trip. Yeah.
Someday.
And I'm going in a couple weeks, but I'd love to have you with me someday. And I said, hey, is there any room on that trip? And so, and you called Johanna, the travel agent, right then. And so it worked out. She made some room for me. So that was cool. So anyway, that was just over a year ago. And that answers the question.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's why I took him on the pastor's fam tour. I wanted him to be at a different level, not just going on a trip, but seeing it more from an administrative perspective. So that's why he went with me on this one. But all right, so we're about to jump into some of the pictures here in a moment, but let me tell you more about our trip and how it's come together. So as I told you guys, year ago, and then as it's gotten closer and closer, we're gonna leave it for you guys to sign up for our Israel trip first before it fills up and other churches join us. I kind of said that in faith only because it's been the experience the last couple of years where people will reach out and say, can we attach to your trip? And it kind of blows me away. The last year was Calvary Chapel, Dallas, Georgia, right? I was like, that blew my mind. And between us, we filled up a bus. Well, this year, it was like almost immediately after I told you guys, okay, we're going to open it up to other churches. That's when the people from Knox signed up. So now we have a whole contingency from Knox. We have our church, and then a church in Cape May, New Jersey reached out. And as of the other day, they told me they have about 20 people that are going to go with them as well. So it's crazy that we're that church, and I say that because I'm proud of that, but I think for us, we truly got behind Israel in a special way. And I don't care if people struggle with the theology of replacement theology and everything. There's still the land of the Bible, right? I don't care. People that have like a reformed bent might be like, well, I don't believe in the modern state of Israel. Well, I don't care, first of all, right? And second of all, because it is a thing, whether you believe it or not. But the second thing is, I say that lovingly, but one, I don't care, but two, it's like, it's the land of the Bible. Don't you want to know your Bible better? Forget about the modern state of Israel. But especially in the last year, can you believe what has happened in October of 2023 to Israel? And now they have become the villain. Isn't it amazing how media does that? Everyone has made Israel out to be the bad guy for quote unquote retaliating. I've seen it as long as I've been a Christian. I remember way back from Hamas, they would fire from Gaza rockets into Israel and kill civilians, and then they'd retaliate to a minor degree and blow the thing out of proportion, and Israel, the aggressor, and it's like they've been doing this for years, but it's never had the kind of traction I've seen until this year. It's unreal, the traction that it's got with people like Tucker Carlson and social media and all that kind of stuff. So my personal support for Israel is unwavering, And it's not just on my word that Israel needs to exist. I mean, that's actually God's word in Ezekiel, that he was going to raise them up as a nation again. He's going to breathe life into the dry bones. But there are great men like Sir Robert Anderson, and Charles Spurgeon has a great quote on this. You could look them up. And they were men that were like, okay, just because Israel's not in the land and they've been apart from that land for almost 2,000 years, all we can tell from reading the scripture is that God's going to bring those people back into that land and reestablish them for the last days. That was when there was, see, most theologians look at circumstance and they say, well, Israel's not there. Surely the church has replaced Israel. And men like Charles Spurgeon were like, no, if we're honest theologically, Israel has to come back into that land. And lo and behold, I don't know, was it 50 years after Charles Spurgeon said that? Maybe not even 100 for sure. They're back in the land as they are today. So anyway, two more things about that. Israel, the modern state of Israel, is a miracle phenomenon, right? They lead the world in technology. 70 years ago, they weren't even a people group as they are today. 70 years ago. Think about it. And now they lead the world in technology. Like this. Like they've learned how to desalinate water to use it, to drink it, to use it for plants and everything else. And that is amazing. But that's something, and they don't share that with the world. The patent is all theirs. But that's just no big thing. It's God's people, God's blessing. So it's cool that that's the truth. And the other thing is, I always say it's amazing that you and I can go there today. And one thing we don't want to take for granted about our trips to Israel is that Israel has taken their time to take care of the details of the archaeology they're finding, in the last 100+ years of doing that archaeology that they found. They've preserved it. That's the important thing. There's plenty, again, Jordan is amazing. We're going to go there on our next trip in October. But you got to understand, and I say this with a broad brushstroke, but the Arabs don't care about that. Because as much as it's the land of the Bible, it's God's people, Israel, that's so significant. So they don't care about preserving Israel's heritage, right? They don't care about that. So the things aren't preserved to the same degree as Israel. So it is amazing that we can go there on a plane and do what we do over there. I don't take that for granted at all. So anyway, we can get to some pictures. We can probably look at a few pictures and then give you guys a few minutes for some Q&A if you want them. John, what's this? What might this be?
This is the top of Mount Arbel as it overlooks Galilee. And we do believe that the Lord Jesus withdrew here to pray. And again, that's just one of those cool things that you come to appreciate, is where the Lord was and what he did and why he did it. And, getting alone with the Father. And, you can see that for yourself, experience that for yourself. There we were climbing early in the morning. There were cows all over the place. And, it was a very beautiful view.
Yeah, we did that. That was extracurricular for us. It was 3 miles from the hotel, so we ran the 3 miles, and then we hiked it. And then we had to be back for breakfast to get on the bus. And so we got to watch the sunrise for exactly 3 minutes, and then we were running back down. But the next day was cool because the bus, that was going to be the first stop the next day. So we actually ran all the way up to the top and met the group at the top. So that was a lot of fun. But Arbel is Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5. It says that he took his disciples up to a mountain and taught them there. That's the mountain we believe is the Sermon on the Mount. People conflate that a lot with Luke chapter 4, the Sermon in the Plain. But as you understand it, that's most likely the place for the Sermon on the Mount. What's amazing is you can see Mount Hermon from there. And that is the place where Jesus transfigured. So I was thinking about, I was overcome by that reality that as the Lord's teaching the Sermon on the Mount to these guys, he's looking forward to the end of his ministry and thinking, I'm going to bring 3 of those guys up on that mountain and reveal myself to them. But you can only see that when you're there, and you can see that vantage point, and it's amazing. So that was definitely a highlight, our little extracurricular stuff. What else we got, guys? Oh, this is incredible.
Adonai Elohim Tzevaot. Adonai Elohim Tzevaot. One more time. Adonai Elohim.
That's translated. We're going to get bacon cheeseburgers right now. I wish that was what we were saying. No, but what we are doing is awesome because this is the original Pilgrim Road 2,000 years ago. And it's been under excavation for 14 years. Every year that I've gone there, I've seen the signs that said, we're working on this area. This connects the Pool of Siloam to the Temple Mount. It's the Pilgrim Road that everyone journeyed up and down. So those are original stones, a lot of the ones that you're seeing that we're stepping on. and it was open for the first day, the last day of our trip. So we got to go there. We were some of the first pilgrims back on that road in 2,000 years. Incredible. So that was awesome experience. Yeah, one of the songs of ascent, right. So this is the Eastern Gate, famous Eastern Gate, if you know much about that. A lot to be said about that. Okay, this is crazy. Tim, forgive me, dude. My family, I have started the dumbest thing in the world. Look how gnarly that camel is, right? This is so stupid. I can't believe I'm sharing this with you. Whenever we're in traveling or something, and we see I was like, guys, can you believe it? Tim Arbaugh's right over there, and I'm mistaken. There's Tim. Anyway, so I said I got to get a picture of this, and so that's just an ugly old camel. Is really all that it is. Tim, I said, what are you doing here? Sorry, can't help it. One time we're in Universal Studio, and there was this worm coming out of the earth with crazy teeth, and my kids even said, "Tim," So anyway, it's a real thing in the fam. I don't know what that is. I can't say that I know what that is. It's pretty. It's probably the amount of olives I had to guess. Yeah, Patty. Oh, whoops. What else we got, guys? This is awesome. We're in Capernaum at the synagogue, and we were singing just our small group over here to the left. And these people from Nigeria heard it, and they all came over, and we all started worshiping the Lord together. It was pretty awesome. And that was just the end of the group. That was it was such a cool, holy moment. We all had our phones off, and we were just worshiping. And then as it was winding down, we're like, we should get a video of this. But it was awesome to see that synagogue full of people worshiping. Same sunrise, a little bit earlier in the day. John, what is this? You blacked out again. It's in Getty. This is where David went and hid in the wilderness, running from Saul, where he meets up with him in the cave and all that happens. This is that region. You can see why in the desert to have a spring like this is why David and his soldiers landed here. Beautiful spot. A lot of fun to go there. This is the desert in Israel, right, John? Yes, yeah. He blacked out again. That is the Roman ramp to Masada is what that is, John. That's the Roman ramp. Exactly. I took the words out of his mouth. Okay, this is incredible. Does anyone know what that is? It's a rock, yeah. That is a cave. I believe it's called Cave 11. If you've heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls, that's where they were found, the majority of the scrolls in that cave. And so a little Bedouin boy threw a rock and bink, and he hit a piece of pottery, checked it out. All of that, by the way, happened in 1947. By the time it was kind of unveiled of what it exactly was, it was 1948, exactly when Israel was being reborn as a nation. And the question was, whose land is it? Oh, they found the title deed in Isaiah, right, in 1948. So it's we found the old title deed to the land here in a cave. So that's what's amazing about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah, that's Baxter State Park. I'm not. Those are some beautiful clouds. Yeah, I don't know if the media guys are messing with us or what's going on. That's our bell. Okay, this is our bell from the Sea of Galilee, the mountain that John and I talked about hiking. Kind of a cool story. You want to tell them about the shout-out we got? That was pretty fun.
So, again, pastor's tour, led by a pastor, given to a bunch of pastors. We're talking Pastor Sandy Adams, Calvary Chapel, Stone Mountain. Yeah, a human instrument, but at the same time, kind of a big deal. Anyway, we're hanging out with him all week. And so he sort of opened, he was about to open our tour that morning. But before he did, he told me, hey, by the way, John, that's Mount Arbel over there. And I told him,
He said we're gonna hike. We're gonna be at the top of that in the morning, tomorrow morning.
right, that's what it was, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I told him, well, actually, Pastor Greg and I already hiked that thing this morning.
That was so cool, man.
It was pretty sweet.
And then he shared that with the crew.
Yeah, and then he was going to open in prayer, and he said, by the way, everybody, in case you didn't know, we got a couple of Iron Men here. And well, he also said that we just missed him coming down.
Yeah, he said he finished up his prayer time in the morning and he passed us, but he didn't want to interrupt what we were doing. Oh, man.
Something happened with the pictures.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with that, but
That is a beam from my brother's house.
okay. The thing is, these are incredible pictures, but I mean, you'd have to see the whole picture to really appreciate it. But
Yeah, you definitely want to go to that place to see it for yourself, for sure. Again, I told you, we give the worst Israel presentations the world has ever known, and then people still sign up. You see, you got to go there. You just can't. You got to go there. Oh, man.
that is an awesome picture, too, by the way. If you were to see the whole thing, I think you'd really appreciate it. But
Is this taken from the city of David? Is that what it is?
yeah.
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 Which is, okay, quick, cool note. We found the city of David. They've unearthed it. They've done incredible archaeological digs. They found the capitals, the Phoenician capitals that were in David's palace, okay? If you appreciate The Chosen, any of you watch the Chosen series, okay? Check this out. Just so you understand how accurate The Chosen is, go and watch the scenes in David when he's remorsing over the loss of his child, and you'll see in the background the exact capitals as they were found in his palace. So just so you know how exact The Chosen were on so many details, when they could be exact, they were exact. So just kind of a fun little detail, and you can go and see those capital replicas there. Yeah, that's one of the hotels, actually. Yeah. You get to stay with homeless people. It's wonderful. You don't want to go there. Yeah. There we go. So when you first get into Israel, you go to Mount Scopus, which is where that is, because it's like a scope. You're telescoping. You get the best view there, and you get off the bus and you get this group photo, which I would recommend if you are going to go with us. It's just a recommendation. It's $10. This guy comes and takes a picture, but it's a high quality picture, and it's a great way to capture your group photo. So, but it looks much better than that, the one you actually get for memorabilia. But that's kind of the famous thing that you do as a group when you get to Israel. You kind of come out of the tunnel and see Israel for the first time, then you go there. That's the Temple Mount. That's the Dome of the Rock. And that's sort of the famous iconic thing in Israel. You learn all about that history, the building backgrounds, and all that kind of thing. And we get a detailed. This is probably one of the most detailed tours I went on with our guide this time. He took us around the whole compound and showed us all these little details I had never seen before. So that's one of the fun things about multiple trips for me, is you get to fill in the little pieces and little gaps that you might have. And so this was truly, John, one of my most thorough favorite tours of the Temple Mount ever. So, yeah. So that's the Muslims in 639, I think it is. You could check me on that. I think it's like 639 A.D. They built that. So it's actually the opposite of the Bible. Muslims have had to take Muhammad's stories and make them fit. So they took the stories from Muhammad's journey and made that a holy site by saying this rock, the Dome of the Rock, is the rock, for example, where Muhammad ascended in the night on I think it was like a donkey or something. He ascended into heaven. So they ended up making Jerusalem and Israel a holy site for them, based on stories they were filling in to sort of make that important as a capital. But what was actually there, is believed to be there, is that's where the original temple would have sat, when they sacrificed to God and the Ark of the Covenant was in there. There is a little bit of debate whether it's exactly there or a little to the right if you're looking at it from the eastern side, but that's something that you can get into and we talk about on the trip. It's really fun. So this was in Jordan, in Petra, the famous, most of you, if you've seen Indiana Jones, right? And what's crazy is if you zoom in on those upper statues, there are bullet holes from wars that have happened in the past. So and it wasn't from Indiana Jones, actually. So, but that was phenomenal. We might have a video on there, but I don't know if it's going to give us an issue with zooming in like the last one. Do you guys have that video right there? Where you kind of come through the crevasse and then you open up to that. It's really a really special hike. And so with this, you actually get dropped off and you end up, it's a 3-mile trail through the rock, and then you see certain sites. Oh, there you go. This is sort of the end of one of the sections. I want to say that this actually, if you didn't know what it was, is a grave for a Nabatean king is what it actually is. And so there's other beautiful carvings throughout Petra in that area. But it's the place we believe the Jews are going to flee to during the tribulation period. It's a rock city. It's safe and secure if you follow the book of Revelation. So we believe the Israelites are going to go there and find their refuge there. So it's biblically significant in that way. Oh, what's that, John?
I can't tell you exactly where it is, but it is under the Temple Mount, and
Yes.
it is evidence of the earthquake that followed the Lord's death upon the cross. Really, it's incredible. So it's Matthew's gospel. You read about the earthquake, the people rising from the grave, and that stone is evidence. I mean, it's very, very unusual for a stone like that in its placement and everything to be cracked like that. And I don't know. He was talking about the earthquakes.
Oh, it was amazing.
They really don't have earthquakes there, and
Yeah.
so it would have to be that. So,
And it was the only verified time they had an earthquake in Israel that's documented for us is in Matthew's gospel. And so you're looking at the very crack, and it goes all the way up and along this tunnel. So it's just evidence of the Bible like that. Even the detail of the earthquake at the Lord's death. So that was phenomenal to see that. This is the inside of the eastern gate. You're not allowed to actually go down there, but we could just take a picture of that from the other side. This is from the Temple Mount, of course. Anything else? Yes, a nice little Jewish man. It's John. Yeah, just took a picture of John praying at the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, as they call it. This is the closest that a Jew can get to the Temple Mount, like a real religious Jew, because they don't dare to go to the top of the Temple Mount for fear of stepping on where the Holy of Holies was. So the Jews lament the fact that they can't be up there and they can't know the place of worship, and that's why they wail and weep, and that's why it's the Wailing Wall. But really all it is a retaining wall, ancient retaining wall. This is the sign on the Pilgrim's Road. That's all that is, just telling you that the Pilgrim Road is now open. It's very interesting. A couple more guys, maybe? Yep, this is the Pilgrim Road from almost the bottom where the Pool of Siloam is. If you think about it. So I try my best to not put groups through too much walking because I know people complain about that. Can you believe it? But we walked up the Pilgrim Road, and so a lot of the group was saying, "Oh, I wish we went down. I wish we went down." So instead of like giving them a hard time, which I want to do, I want to be like, man up and forget about it. I said, even the Lord told the man to go down to the Pool of Siloam, right? But that's a little something. But yeah, that's the Pilgrim Road. That's the road that the man went down to wash his eyes in the Pool of Siloam. Yeah. And this is nothingness. This is the end of our presentation. Good job, guys. Thank you for the cue. So at this time, Matt's going to grab a microphone. We're doing that for anyone listening online so they can hear your question. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and Matt will get you a microphone. So just be patient so we can get that situated. And just curious, does anyone have a question or a few questions out there? Could you raise your hand just so we can see them? All right, Vicky. All right, Violet. I'm a pastor, and I give invitations to Christ, so I know you have to wait a while to get people to actually respond. I've learned this over the years, right? So give it 5 minutes. All right, let's start with Vicky, I guess. She had her hand up first, and then Violet.
So can you please talk about the wonderful food that they have there?
Oh,
I mean, I'm a
yes.
foodie, so.
Yeah, that's great. So listen, just like full disclosure, I'll tell you what I've heard, but I don't want to get on like some crazy train and stuff. But I've had people with like ailments and diseases, and they're like, it's all cured from eating this Mediterranean food. I'm like, I cannot believe that, but that's what you're saying. So okay, but they, because they don't do. It's funny. We were touring Tel Megiddo years ago, and the tour guide's like, all of our food is all natural. We don't spray with pesticides. And literally, a little plane went, and it blew pesticides. I said, we all looked at him. He's like, well, that's what we're supposed to tell people. He's like, of course you do, you weirdo. So anyway, for what that's worth to you, that's why it's fun to be there. But at the end of the day, it's a Mediterranean diet. But think about like Chinese food. The people in China eat Chinese food like we eat in America? No. But when you go there, you'll be introduced to shawarma, and a lot of people do love, like, the breakfast and the lunch and everything is really interesting. The salads, like, it's the coolest, like, spread, in the morning. And because breakfast and dinners are included in the thing, and it's buffet style, people do love that. But I can also tell you this, no matter how much they love it, there's a part of you that just wants a cheeseburger at a certain point, And I can tell you this with great excitement. The hotel, the Ambassador that we stay in, is run by Arabs, and they believe in putting cheese on meat. And so we do this now. It's a custom of ours that the first night that we land in Jerusalem at the Ambassador, we all eat a cheeseburger from there, and it is quite good. So that's not what you were looking for, but believe it or not, you do want a cheeseburger pretty bad when you're there. But people do love the food, and the pictures are really crazy. That buffet line of stuff that I don't eat in the morning: fish and cheese and all these kinds of things, yogurts, and that's all stuff we have here, I guess. But yeah, it's really, people love it. No, but again, the buffet, it says so much stuff. It's really interesting, and I kind of joke with John because you go to the buffet line, there's some stuff you recognize and you'd like to eat, and then there's stuff you look at and I'm like, well, John, I've never thought about eating an egg on spaghetti. You know what I mean? I don't know what, like, spaghetti sauce. That's kind of a weird, never crossed my mind. Like, I'd love to try that. But yeah, it's quite an experience. The food in and of itself is its own experience, so great question.
So my question is a bit for you, Pastor Greg, as a father of 3 awesome kids. What are your and Brianna's thought about trips to Israel for young children and coming of age? Obviously, we have a 3-year-old, way too young, in my opinion, to go international. But I think about, preteen, teenager.
Yeah.
When do you think is a good time for a kid to go to Israel for the first time?
That is like a phenomenal question. I can just tell you my experience a little bit. Riley was 7 years old when, I can't remember exactly how many trips I had been on or whatnot, but I knew that I was going to make this sacrifice a lot. And so I told her at 7 years old, I said, Riley, when you turn 16, I'll take you there. I just wanted her to grow up a little bit, learn the Bible. So she's going for her first time in October. She'll have just turned 17 years old. And she's been looking forward to that since she was 7 years old. When you say it when they're 7, you think, oh, that'll be forever, and here we are. So, but I do believe I've seen kids that are like preteenish, and they're there playing with Legos, and I'm like, you're in the Holy Land, So and it's like people, if they want to spend the money for their preteen and stuff to do that, that's fine. But I think a mature preteen that really loves the Bible, we have So part of the trip from Knox, the pastor, his wife, and their oldest 15, 16-year-old son, he told me today his son has read the Bible 15 times. And I was like, he's like, that's way more than I have, just for the record, And I'm like, that's incredible. So you take a kid like that, and he actually, when we did that presentation, he's like, I just noticed something about my son. And so I asked him, do you want to go to Israel? And he basically said, how bad do you want to go? And they started doing this negotiation thing. And he realized he really wants to go. So I think if there's really that desire there and it's feasible, And in this case, the pastor, I think, did a wise thing. He said, how much money are you willing to put toward it? And, I won't disclose what the kid said, but at any rate, the kid was motivated. And he said, I'd put X amount and all that. So I think that just those kind of factors. Yeah, it's a great question, by the way. But like I said, I've seen the preteen, early teenage kid just playing Legos. And I thought to myself, that is a lot of money to get this kid over here to play Legos, See you in a few weeks, buddy. We'll be back, But great question. Any other questions? Gary.
So I'm just going to ask the practical question. You've danced around, both of you danced around the financial piece without disclosing exactly what the number is. It's probably a secret number, but I'm just curious, what does it cost to go on the trip?
If you go, all your wildest dreams will come true. From my memory, I cannot think of it. I want to say it's just south of $4,000. And I could be wrong. It would be less than that, not more. But I believe it's just shy of $4,000. That covers all your stuff there, your transit, your tips. That's the other thing, too. For those of you that don't know, when you go, you don't need to tip the different people that you would want to. That's all taken care of in your cost. The only thing you're on the hook for there is lunch. And the only thing we haven't had nailed down is flights. We just got that in today because they had to figure out how many people are going to do the Jordan extension, which is the majority. So that's why our flights are going to go through Jordan, and that is like $1,300. That's what we just figured out today. So that all in. But that covers everything but your lunches there and any other travel expenses you would want. So if that helps you at all. So definitely a big investment, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Two quick questions. What is the draw to go to Jordan?
So it's still the land of the Bible. Jordan is, that's the other side of the Jordan River. And so before the nation of Israel crossed over, but there's a lot more Old Testament history. There's even some New Testament history like John the Baptist, where he was beheaded, Marcaris, that's there. And actually what's cool about being there this time, I had never made the connection quite the same apart from being there, was that John the Baptist was said that he would come in the spirit and power of Elijah. When you realize where John the Baptist did his ministry, it said he did his ministry on the Bethany, the other side of the Jordan, which means John the Baptist did his ministry in the exact same region that Elijah did his ministry. So even those little details, you see things differently in Jordan. Mount Nebo is over there. I was personally excited to go there. That's where Moses died. Again, loads of biblical sites. In fact, I asked our guide over in Jordan, I was like, did you say that there were 100,000 biblical sites? She said, no, I said 100,000 sites. I was like, well, that's a big difference. I'm like, I'm going to go home and tell everyone there's 100,000 biblical sites. And it was like maybe 100. But anyway, yeah, it's the land of the Bible. When you think about the Israelites crossing over into the desert, that we went there, Wadi Rum Desert. We went into that desert area where they first started making their journey up. So it's still the land of the Bible. That's why.
Also, the other question is, did you ask Netanyahu what I told you that I wanted you to ask?
Oh, BB, I call him. No, didn't see him. But the fun thing is, I did have a trip one time. They were pulling a special trip together, and I count myself real blessed that they were getting a contingent of pastors together, and they said, we're going to meet Benjamin Netanyahu. We'd like you to go. It fell through, but I was pretty fired up about that. They were going to take a select group of Calvary pastors, but never seen the guy. But I can tell you the locals kind of hate him, actually, and they think he's been in power for too long. But we love him. He's really good at the political side of things. He's very articulate and well-spoken. But if you learn the dynamics there, I mean, we experienced it ourselves. We were trying to get our tour bus to lunch, and there was a shutdown, and all these religious Jews were in the streets protesting because they wanted Netanyahu, because Netanyahu has leveraged them, but they don't want to be involved with the military. They don't want to serve. They receive all the government benefits, but they don't want to contribute at all. But Benjamin Netanyahu has leveraged them to get into his position, so he has to kind of favor them. It's a political nightmare. Can you believe it? Politics that are a mess, But yeah, try to imagine it for just a moment. But yeah, so anyway, I can just tell you locals really are upset with him, but they know that he's very good at the public image of Israel. So, yeah. Ah, yes, Thomas.
So I was kind of really racking my brain for a question, and the only one that really came to mind is, I understand that it's tour for our groups from over here, but how thoroughly would you say that the people there are willing to interact with us while we're there?
Well, I can tell you this, that all the street signs are in 3 languages, Hebrew, Arabic, and English. So you don't feel like an outsider there. And most, like I said it to our group this time, walk up to a group of kids in school, and they'll speak to you in almost perfect English. And could you imagine someone coming and speaking Hebrew to a kid here in America? They would be lost, right? So you can literally speak to some of the smallest people over there, and they can speak back to you in English. So there's I mean, unless there's a religious reason for it, that they, like a Hasidic Jew, they might speak Yiddish or something like that. But you know, wherever we go and the things that we encounter, we're pretty connected with the people. But again, it's more of a tour. You're seeing places. It's not so much connecting. I've done partial tours where we've gone and done, like after October 2023, they were calling them Holocaust survivors. And so we went and worked with Holocaust survivors, and we made stuff for Holocaust survivors. So I had those kinds of trips. But yeah, it's very welcoming, you know, environment.
Okay, so I was just wondering because I feel like part of getting to know that area and knowing the biblical aspect of it is to really get to know the culture there as well.
Yeah.
So the interaction would be a big part for me if I went.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and you can experience that. I've had some of the most profound things on the plane ride itself. You talked to the most fascinating. John and I talked to a guy. Do you remember what he was developing? Some crazy technology. I wish I could remember that guy. 4-dimensional cameras. That's what it was. And he was just getting back from a trip to the States where they're selling their product, and they're getting it launched right now, where he's selling a 4-dimensional camera. Okay, that blew my mind. I don't know if that blows your mind, but it blew my mind. One guy I talked to on the plane years ago, he said that they had developed a gun. He was same thing. He was coming stateside to sell his thing to the military. They've created a gun that can turn at a 90-degree angle and shoot around a corner. That was their technology. I met the guy who made that gun. So on the plane ride. So just cool stuff like that. You can do as much of it as you want in a way. I mean, my pastor, Aaron, witnessed to a guy at the Wailing Wall. You know, they say you're not supposed to proselytize there, but he did, you know. So it's kind of like as much of that as you want to have, you can have it within the time frame that you have. It's a great question, though. So, Gary, question number 2. No, there's no discounts for people that we really like, okay? I can see where this is going. Is that your final price?
I was going to say you gave me such a good answer the first time, I'd come back again, but I'm looking now at a Bible map in the back of my Bible, and could you just summarize sort of where you went, the cities or locations that you went? It doesn't have to be great detail, but just approximately what towns you went to?
Yeah, if you're looking, I don't know if you have Joppa on there as a reference point, but that's, like I said, it's central Israel, close to the coast. That's sort of Joppa as a reference point for the airport today. So we fly in there, land there. We go inland and north. And in that journey, we go into Mount Carmel. You know, those are the famous sites. Tel Megiddo, Armageddon. Then you're making your way up north to Galilee. So in that transit, you're seeing Nazareth and all those kinds of places. We even go further north. It's Tel Dan. So essentially what I'm saying is we start coastal, central, go up north as far as you can. We take and go further, as far south as you can where there's anything worth seeing, and then we go to Jerusalem. So in reality, we see pretty much all of it, if that makes sense. We see all of Israel in the course of that trip. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. It's got like 1 or 2 more. Alley-oop. Best questions out there. Don't want to miss you. Can we hear from a younger person? Blake, do you have a question? Can you make one up for me? Gary stole your question, yeah. Actually, so one person on one of the trips was like, a detail person, And they worked with the bus driver, and they highlighted every road that we drove on. So there was a map, and I never took the time to copy it, but they literally copied all the roads that we drove on and the major sites we went with a highlighter. So again, the trip can be kind of what you want, and the memorabilia is all there. But our goal is to get as much Israel as possible. I can tell you this about the trip coming up. Is there going to be a good handful of older folk on it, and we're going to be sensitive to the walking, So whereas, I look at a group that when they're younger, I say, oh, most of us, we can just hike down this hill. We're going to take the time and just drive the bus around and those kinds of things. All right, Lauren, can you make one up for me? Yes, I knew it. I'm telling you, Blake's really got a good one, but he's going to save it.
Okay, so I know that you guys have gone a couple times, and Jon, this is your second time, right? Okay, and you've gone many times. Yeah. Is there something going back again that maybe you have seen before, and something clicks, or maybe you're seeing something in a different way or a different perspective, and it's like, I didn't see that the first time around. Yeah,
that's great. You want me to go first? What do you think about that? Absolutely. He blacked out again. Absolutely. I'm sort of addicted to going for that reason. You always get another sliver. You always get another little piece that connects the dots. And like, yes. And I'm a slow learner in the fact that I want to know exactly what I'm talking about. I want to nail those details. So that's why I love going and just solidifying and cementing. And so for me, the two places I can think of was the southern steps, which I thought I knew really well, but not well enough. Just south of those is areas where we're studying in Kings, and the kings that we're going to study, and the ones that developed Israel, and the certain walls that you read. You read it and think, whatever. You go there and you see those walls today. When it talks about them building up a certain wall in a certain area, and they have all of those walls just south of the southern steps. So for me to connect that dot was really profound. The Pilgrim Road, again, opening day, we're on that thing. Those are moments you can only get on a certain trip, So that's why for me, the multiple just locks it in and it brings it all home every time. And again, spiritually, I actually teared up and connected with the Lord more than anywhere was on the top of Mount Arbel, and it was a clear enough day you could see Hermon off in the distance, and I thought, man, to see what the Lord saw when he was up here. He was up here. And the ministry that he was leading and what he was looking down upon and thinking of the future and seeing it off in there. And I can't say with 100% certainty, but my spirit was like, the Lord looked at that mountain and said, that's as the ministry is winding down, I'm going to get these guys up north, and I'm going to reveal myself to those guys on that mountain. And that just blew my mind. It's like, I can't believe I'm seeing what the Lord saw when he was alive. So those are the kind of moments that are just holy and sacred. And then just understanding your Bible a little bit more each time, and knowing these places. Like I said, I'm not quite there, I would be honest with you, but the same way that you could go on a back road to get to Lincolnville is like, that's how I want to be in Israel. I just I was tired. It's a blessing and a curse, because I was tired one night and some guys wanted to go get tattoos, and I've pretty much jumped off that boat. I don't want to be the tattoo guy, believe it or not. And I did everything I could to get out of that. And they're like, well, we need someone to show us where to go. And I'm like, unfortunately, you are right, and I know everywhere to go. So I'm like, let's go, But I said, you do owe me a cheeseburger. And they came good for it. They did. So, yeah. Mike, can we get the mic up here for Mike? Hey, Matt, double time. Remember the poncho?
Do you, in these trips, do you get a sense for changes in the land in terms of the agricultural nature of it and the never having been there, it is a very desert and dry land, but it's not very, very clearly described in the Bible to me?
That's a great question, Mike. So there is a phenomenal book that I still haven't bought. I've just done a little bit of research on it. It's something about 100 years in Israel's history, from 100 years back from pretty much modern time. And the Bible even prophesied that Israel, when they're reborn, they would go into the land that was desolate and they would make it flourish again. And that's what they've done. And you can see the pictures of pretty much desert land and how they've made it flourish again. One of the crazy things about our tour guide, and I know enough, there's a few tour guides out there that do this, but Andre especially, he knows so much about statistics and, plants that grow that are native and all these kinds of things. And yeah. So Andre is awesome. He's a historian and he's an archaeologist. And he will tell you, this percentage of people live here, this many is Jewish, this is the kind of plants that grow in this area. He'll point out those are almond trees, and it does all of that kind of agriculture. He'll say, oh, this just 15 years ago was a ditch, and now it's this and that and the other thing. But John and I were laughing because I was tuned out when our trip started. I was really, really tired, and I was half listening, half falling asleep. And no one was participating with Andre, which was killing me. And he said, what are some of our exports here in Israel? And I was like, no one's going to say anything? I was like, bananas. And he looked at me and he said, I'm going to kill you. I was like, anyway, what he said was that was native to the land. I didn't catch the native part. So he just like, oh, I'm going to kill you. Can you imagine saying that in front of a whole bus of people? He's like, you've been here 9 times, and you don't know what food we, export? I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Mike. So that was a major problem. So what you have so the questions about water, major problem in Israel, major. So you got to understand, especially in drought years, the water source from Mount Hermon that comes down that creates the Jordan River, and that's what Jordan means. Jordan means out of Dan, the northernmost tribe, is the Jordan River is flowing down to the Sea of Galilee, and then that flows all the way down to the Dead Sea where it dies. But even the Dead Sea, what's crazy is the road that we drive on with the bus is just from the 1970s was where we're driving on the bus was all underwater. And there's sites as the receding Dead Sea is going back. There's huge craters that have developed and sucked in whole hotels and all these kinds of things. And when we go to Masada today, for those of you that have been to Masada, we were wondering this trip how high the water line was back in the time of Herod and Christ. And it was, if you know where the station is when we first parked the bus, it was basically at the base of the mountain. The water was almost all the way up to the mountain. So when you think about the vastness of how much that has receded, it's a statement of the fact that they're losing a lot of water. So one of their efforts is they want to desalinate the water from the Mediterranean and put it into the Dead Sea, for example, to bring that back up because there's so many minerals and stuff they harvest. But yeah, they came up, well, I didn't say they came up with, but they've utilized drip irrigation. They've had to be creative over the years. So the fact that they turned a desert into an oasis that's the amazing feat that they've come up against. And remember this too, folks. You ready? This blew my mind because I've heard testimony from a son of a man who survived the Holocaust and made his life there in Israel. And he was telling the story. He's an older man, so his dad, he had him late in life. So the way it worked out, he's one of our tour guides that we use. And he was telling stories about how his dad survived the Holocaust and the stuff that he went through to get to Israel. And he reminded us, he said, do you guys realize that the people of Israel that started this land in 1948 were predominantly Holocaust survivors? And that blew my mind. These are people that just survived the most horrific atrocities in the human race. And they are now planting their life, and they're being attacked on every front, and they survive, and they fought all their way tooth and nail to establish it. So those are the kinds of, devices that they've come up with and developed. So, it's a great question, Mike. One last one, that's it. Blake, I'm not going to ask you again. Nothing. All right. Are we all good? All right, one more. Yes, please. Oh, great question. Great finale question. Do we partake of communion over there? Yes, we do. It just depends on where. If we have a worship leader there, we'll worship throughout the trip as well at certain sites. Not all of them, but at some of them. And then usually we're taking communion in the Garden Tomb area or in Gethsemane itself. I personally like to do it in Gethsemane. In fact, Greg, you remember that when we went all the way up that zigzag path and that was a special moment. There's this area I like to go on the Mount of Olives that you it's forever walking zigzag, but you get to this little like theater area overlooking the Temple Mount, and we had a very special communion time last time we went as a group. Yes, sir.
One thing I just want to emphasize, just came to remembrance, we do a lot of teachings in Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of special teachings at special places. So Gethsemane, doing communion, Pastor Greg did an incredible teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And just the backdrop of Israel, the significance of it, the historicity of it, it really comes together in a very unique way. But a lot of teachings too, so that's a cool aspect of the trip.
Yeah. You have the historical data with the tour guide. You have the pastoral thing. You have the fellowship with the other believers. It's really a special time. So, yeah, one more thing.
And we like the Messianic Jews to lead, because sometimes you get the secular Jews, but if you get the Messianic ones, they're tying the faith into, just the historical aspect as well. But there's an extra dimension when you've got someone who actually believes, in the deity of Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's all I want. We want to share those kinds of things with you guys. And for those of you that are going on the next trip, pumped. It's going to be incredible. And part of the reason I go back is to sharpen the blade and make it the best trip. I always try to build on the last one, do what tweak can we make or whatever. So excited for those of you that are going. And again, just let's keep praying for Israel.